Hello students, I'm Amy Sullivan. Thank you for attending my lecture today. I hope to provide valuable insights to make it worthwhile. Hope you enjoy my talk today. Standing on the stage of the spacious hall, holding a microphone, that's how I greeted the youth in front of me. Among those students, there was one kid, pale-faced, staring at me. Upon finding her, I smiled, but my eyes were cold. Let's get started, shall we? I began my lecture at the University Hospital's hall. Clinical training? Yeah, they are currently in my department, so I have to teach these medical students. I'll be coming home late for a while. I see. Got it. My husband, Ethan, works at the University Hospital. So, you won't be able to pick up Samantha for a while? Ethan raised his voice as if he just remembered. Samantha is our daughter. She will turn 3 soon. We both work, so we leave Samantha at daycare in the University Hospital where Ethan works. Therefore, Ethan has been responsible for taking Samantha to daycare and picking her up from there. That's right then. Amy, could you pick up Samantha for a while? Sorry, I know you're busy too. Ethan, who doesn't seem sorry at all, made the request without even looking at me, and I responded, All right, I'll explain the situation to my colleagues and work it out. Don't worry. Thanks. With that, Ethan takes out his phone and starts to fiddle with it. Seeing Ethan, I sigh so he doesn't notice. When we met, Ethan was so sweet. Is this what they mean by a man won't feed bait to a fish he's caught? Mama, let's play together. I was lost in thought when Samantha, who was playing in the room next to the living room, called me and I was startled. Oh, I'm coming now. Leaving Ethan at the dining table still on his phone, just me headed towards the room. Even though we're all together in this house, the gap of feeling makes me sad. Still, I went on to play with Samantha. I met Ethan at our college club. Hey, are you new here? The one who came up to me at the club was Ethan, a junior 2 years older than me. It didn't take long for my naive younger self to fall for Ethan, an upperclassman who taught me many things. When I became a sophomore, Ethan became a senior and had to take his license exam. Now that I expected to see him less, I gathered my courage and confessed my feelings to Ethan, cheered on by my friends. I managed to get him to say yes, and we started dating. We did once have a rough time and got close to breaking up, but Ethan and I overcame it. After graduating from college, Ethan proposed to me saying, I swear on this ring, I'll make you happy, Amy. Will you marry me? Yes! Thank you! My graduation topped with Ethan's proposal. I was the happiest I had ever been, and tears ran down my cheeks. But looking back, that might have been a mistake. I should have taken time to think it through rather than get swept away by the mood of the moment. Our married life began smoothly, but after the birth of our daughter Samantha, I could feel Ethan growing colder towards me day by day. We were practically a loveless married couple. The reason we're still together is because of our daughter Samantha. Matter of fact, there's no real reason to break up either. Ethan isn't physically or verbally abusive. He's not exactly uncooperative with raising Samantha either. While there's no love between us, I suppose he's still needed for our life with Samantha. I'm sure Ethan must feel the same way about me. It's often said that love and marriage are different. I wonder if this is what that means. I sighed. Well, if it weren't for him, I would have never had Samantha. Perhaps I should consider this a kind of happiness. As I muttered these words to myself, I walked into the University Hospital. I was there to pick up Samantha. Ethan said he would be late today, so I came to pick her up. While walking in the premises, I saw something unbelievable. Ethan was walking arm in arm with a young woman. What? Ethan and the young woman, unaware of my presence, were about to walk past me. In disbelief, I couldn't help but call out, Ethan? The man who turned around was unmistakably Ethan.
Amy, why are you here?
As Ethan showed clear signs of being flustered, I let out a sigh of disbelief. Why? I'm here because you said you'd be late, so I came to pick up Samantha. What about you? Who is she? Despite being in front of a woman who could be suspected of having that kind of relationship with him, I was surprised that I was able to snap at Ethan like this. I'm not upset. I don't have feelings for this person anymore.
She's a student who is currently interning here. I was planning to mentor her further.
Ethan mumbled in response. As he stammered, I asked, Mentor? Interesting. Do you mentor her even outside the hospital? What do you teach her? I asked with a look of disdain. The young woman who was on Ethan's arm then stepped forward. Hello, my name is Tiffany. I'm a medical student. By any chance, are you Ethan's wife? She asked in an obnoxiously high voice that made me want to block my ears. Yes, I am, and who are you to Ethan? In response to my question, this woman named Tiffany looked me up and down as if she were evaluating me. Then she snorted in a mocking laugh. I'm Ethan's girlfriend. It's funny that an old woman like you is Ethan's wife. It's such a mismatch. As Tiffany bluntly said that to me, his wife, Ethan started to look flustered.
Stop it.
No, Ethan, you have to let her know. You're an outstanding surgeon earning $100 million a year. Unlike this unemployed old woman. I'm going to be like you one day, so this old woman stands no chance. As Tiffany provocatively addressed me, Ethan exclaimed, Stop it, and pulled Tiffany away from me.
Can you please go home for today?
Not seeming to care about Ethan's situation, Tiffany pouted. Why? What's wrong?
I need to explain things to my wife. See you another time.
Fine, but you better explain that you're breaking up with your wife to be with me. See you tomorrow, Dr. Ethan. With that, she kissed Ethan on the cheek, waved goodbye, and left the scene. As she passed me, she brought her mouth close to my ear and said, Oh, by the way, about what he's teaching me freaky things, ha. Tiffany's words, spoken with a tone that seemed to end in a heart shape, sent shivers of disgust down my spine. Please have a good talk with Ethan, ma'am. After Tiffany left, I pasted on a mask of a smile and muttered in front of frozen Ethan. She's got some nerve. In the end, Ethan and I together went to pick up our daughter Samantha, and we three went home together. It would probably be the last time we would go home as a family. We haven't made any decisions yet about the matter and agreed to discuss it after we get through with our busy schedule. Ethan acted unusually kind, as if he wanted to regain my trust even for a short while. He was just like when we were dating. But at this point, even if you act that way, my heart won't be moved anymore. Today marks the end of it all. I declared so with determination. Just then, I heard a voice of an MC from the stage.
Next, we would like to invite Dr. Amy Sullivan from our affiliated hospital's neurosurgery department to deliver a speech, advice to aspiring medical students. Dr. Sullivan, please.
As my name was called, I ascended the stage. In front of me were seats filled with great numbers of young people, and scattered around were a few older individuals as well. I took the mic positioned in the middle of the podium and began to look around. Hello, students. I'm Amy Sullivan. Thank you all for coming today. I will make this lecture as meaningful and insightful as possible. I addressed the young crowd in front of me. Among these young people, there was just one who was staring at me with an astonished look on her face. It was Tiffany. Despite my cold gaze, I kept a smile on my face and began my talk in the university hall. Shall we get started then? Is everyone ready? As you can see, a doctor is an extremely demanding profession. One of the perks of being a doctor, I would say, really is our high salary. Everyone started murmuring upon hearing my frank opinion. I mean, I'm sure that's something we all want to know anyway. The annual income of a doctor varies depending on your field, but for neurosurgery, which I specialize in, it's about $100 million. Just kidding. The crowd laughed at my joke. In the midst of this, Tiffany, even knowing that I am a doctor, remained calm and listened without causing a commotion. I hope she continues to listen to the truth. Well, of course, it won't go as high as $100 million, but a good amount might be around $1.5 million. Neurosurgery probably pays the highest among surgeons. An income of $1.5 million is something you won't see unless you're a popular YouTuber or a celebrity. Impressed exclamations rise from the young crowd. Why I mention this? One of the reasons is that I thought that young people would be interested, but the main reason is Tiffany's words. The first time I met Tiffany, she told me, Ethan, you're a genius surgeon who earns $100 million a year, unlike a jobless old woman like her. The reason I brought up our salary was because I wanted to let her know the truth. I take a deep breath and continued my talk. As you can see, while being a doctor may bring a high salary and seem like a dream job, you have to carry the weight of people's lives. It is a great responsibility. I believe the reason for a high salary is right there. If you are not prepared for that, you are not qualified to be a doctor. I stared straight at Tiffany. Lastly, a doctor is someone who saves lives. But even us doctors are human beings, subject to being lured by various temptations. Yet, if I were a patient, I'd want the doctor standing in front of me at that moment to be an individual of integrity. I hope that each and every one of you can become such a doctor. My words left the auditorium in silence. After a moment, a slow ripple of applause began, which soon turned into a standing ovation. Whether my words reached Tiffany or not, it's safe to say that this lecture was a success. I bowed politely and left the stage. Then I headed somewhere. Excuse me. When I opened the door of the lab, which had a plate that read Neuroscience, a man in his 60s sitting on the couch greeted me.
Ah, I've been waiting for you, Amy. Your lecture was splendid.
Just fulfilling your request. Thank you for inviting me to give me a lecture, Professor Johnson. Professor Johnson, the man addressed, smiled and looked at Ethan and Tiffany sitting on the opposite couch.
Well, it was a really great lecture, wasn't it? Right, Ethan, Tiffany?
Ethan and Tiffany, not smiling even a little, were sitting rigidly. Why were these two in Professor Johnson's lab? It's because I had asked them to come. I asked Ethan to come to Professor Johnson's lab with Tiffany because there was something important to discuss.
So, you guys are getting a divorce? What a shame.
Professor Johnson commented with a faux troubled laugh, though his eyes did not smile. Taken aback, Ethan exclaimed,
Divorce? I didn't hear anything about that. Please, Amy, I don't want to break up.
Tiffany retorted to Ethan's plea. What? Why? You're going to break up with her and date me, right? Watching these two, I sighed. Even after hearing my lecture, has it not clicked? I'm a surgeon, not jobless. Tiffany started to laugh at my words. Are you still holding a grudge for me calling you jobless? Sorry, but you make $1.5 million a year, right? Ethan is an outstanding surgeon who earns $100 million. Thank you for letting go of such a husband. Really, thank you. My head began to ache at Tiffany's remarks, and I held my head with my hand. Ethan, too, was holding his head with both hands. Ah, such an insensitive girl. I said in the lecture, didn't I? It's almost impossible for a doctor to earn $100 million a year. Tiffany, you're being fooled. What? No, ma'am, you don't have to lie. Ethan, she's lying, right? You do make $100 million a year, right? Tiffany's smile began to fade from her face. Why don't you tell her the truth? At my prompt, Ethan finally began to speak hesitantly.
I'm not really a doctor.
Eh? Why? But...
Actually, I'm a nurse. I'm sorry. I lied.
Nurse? Upon hearing this, Tiffany's face showed a moment of confusion before slowly morphing into a look of anger as she finally grasped what Ethan said. What? So you're far lower than a doctor? You fooled me. You're the worst.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to have a bit of fun with you. Tiffany, I'm really sorry. The truth is, I've only ever loved Amy. But ever since our daughter was born, you've been neglecting me, and I felt lonely.
As the two were wailing, I made a face of disbelief. Miss Kelly, being a nurse is also an honorable profession. Withdraw your disrespectful statement. You are also awful for seducing a married man and making fun of his profession. And you, Ethan, do you remember making the same excuse before? That's right, this wasn't Ethan's first time cheating. He's also done it once before. The crisis that had once brought us to the brink of separation was because of that one time he cheated before. When I was busy studying for my MCAT, Ethan cheated, using that as an excuse.
I've only ever loved you, Amy, but since you've been so busy studying, I felt lonely, he said.
At that time, I thought I was partly to blame and forgave him because it was a one-time mistake. We promised it wouldn't happen again. What a shame, I told you, didn't I? Ethan, pleading with me not to leave him, was met with my scornful gaze. I told you there won't be a second time. I placed the divorce papers on the table. My part is filled out. You should write yours. I had Professor Johnson act as a witness. I'm sorry for causing a scene, Professor Johnson.
No, it's fine. If that's the case, it would be wrong for the two of you to remain in the same workplace. Ethan, as your superior, I will have you transfer, and Tiffany, you being a student, I will suspend your clinical practice.
At Professor Johnson's words, Ethan and Tiffany's faces were filled with despair.
No, not that. It's only mostly women in nursing.
I knew what Ethan was trying to say. Women love to gossip. If both Ethan and Tiffany suddenly disappeared, a rumor would go around, and usually those rumors would be right on the mark. It would undoubtedly make it uncomfortable for him to stay at his workplace. Stop my clinical practice! What about my credits? Clinical practicum is a mandatory subject to become a doctor. If they can't earn those credits, it would mean, in effect, they'd have to repeat a year. But their fate doesn't concern me in the least. Looking at them, I couldn't help but give a bright smile. I absolutely despise liars who can't keep their promises. And so, my married life with Ethan ended abruptly in the worst possible way. Thank you for your cooperation, Professor Johnson. With that, Professor Johnson gave a wry smile.
I never thought I'd be a witness to your divorce after being the matchmaker for your marriage.
I'm sorry, Professor Johnson. I failed to live up to your expectations. Yes, indeed. Professor Johnson was our matchmaker when Ethan and I got married. Deciding on the divorce, I called Ethan and Tiffany to report Professor Johnson about it.
If that's what you've decided on, I won't say anything. By the way, it's been 5 years since your assignment. Don't you think it's about time you come back to the university hospital?
Without hesitation, I nodded to Professor Johnson's invitation. Yes, definitely. After all, I have to pick up and drop off my daughter Samantha.
Speaking of pickup, isn't it about time?
Upon Professor Johnson's question, I hastily checked my watch. Oh no, it's already this late? I gotta get going. See you, Professor Johnson. Seeing me rush out of the lab, Professor Johnson chuckled to himself.
A mother's duty never ends, huh?